Welcome to the VATAS Timekeeper Refresher Training. This session is going to focus on updating timekeepers on all of the enhancements that have gone into VATAS over the last year. We will also review some of the timekeeper functions and help timekeepers operate in VATAS at their absolute best. It is extremely important that timekeepers have employees coded with the correct AWS code. AWS stands for Alternate Work Schedule. And on the SharePoint page, which we will show you at the end of the training, you can find a guide that will break down the AWS codes for more extensive definitions. But what I want to show you is the enhancements that we've made for incorrect AWS codings. I'm going to go back to Select Employees. And the first example that I would like to show you will be on Dana Duty Station Payroll Admin. So let's go into the timesheet by clicking on the pay period hyperlink, and you can see that I already have everything posted. The employee works 4 10s, Monday through Thursday, 6:45 a.m. to 5:15 p.m. Now we all know that the correct AWS code for an employee who works 4 10s with none of those tours of duty being an overnight tour is an 8. You can see that this is currently incorrectly coded as a 0. And when we attempt to validate, we now receive an error message telling us that scheduled hours cannot exceed 8 hours in a day for a non-compressed alternate work schedule. So we do now have the error coded, and it is now going to force the timekeeper in this scenario to go back and correct that AWS code before they're able to validate the timesheet. So the timekeeper would need to go back to Select Employees. They would need to go into Dana Duty Station Payroll Admin's timesheet profile, which they could do by clicking on the user ID hyperlink. There's our incorrect AWS code of a 0. If we change that to the correct 8 and scroll to the bottom, we will save. We'll use our hyperlink breadcrumb to go back to Select Employees. And now let's take another look at that exact same timesheet after we have corrected the AWS code. So we're going to go back into that timesheet, and we will now attempt to validate again. And this time we have validated successfully. We do receive the blue text of success, and you also see at the bottom that the AWS code also reflects correctly as an 8. Now I'd like to go back to Select Employees and show another example, and let's find our full-time RN. Here they are. So let's take a look at their timesheet by clicking on the pay period hyperlink. Now this full-time RN, you can see they work 11:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. Tuesday through Saturday. And once again, you all know that if the employee has even one day in their schedule that goes overnight, which is a crossover tour, the AWS code is automatically a 6. Well, you can see that we currently have it incorrectly coded as a 0. And when we attempt to validate, we have 4 errors saying that the employee must have 8 hours on each day, because with that AWS code of a 0, that is what VATAS is looking for. It's looking for 5 days a week, 8 hours per day, 40 hours per week with no crossovers. And so there we have the errors that is going to force us to correct that AWS code before we can validate. So we once again go back to Select Employees. We will find our full-time RN's timesheet profile. I already showed you that you could access it by clicking on the user ID. You could also put a check in front of the name, scroll to the bottom, and click on timesheet profile. 2 ways to accomplish the exact same task, which is getting to that timesheet profile where we can change the incorrect AWS code of a 0 to a 6, scrolling to the bottom and saving. And now we'll use our breadcrumb to go back to Select Employees. And let's take one more look at that timesheet for our full-time RN. And now when we scroll down and validate, we receive the blue text of success telling us that the timesheet has been validated successfully. So again, these AWS code errors, it is going to alert you if the AWS is incorrectly coded as a 0 but needs to be a 6 or an 8. Those are the scenarios in which you will receive the errors letting you know that you have an incorrect AWS code. Let's go ahead and maneuver back to our Timekeeper main menu. The next enhancement that we're going to talk about is probably the enhancement that I've seen timekeepers get the most excited about, and it's for good reason. And this enhancement is where when a leave request is approved, if time has already been posted to a day, the leave will overlay that time that has already been posted to that day. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like, but I also want to preface this by saying that the only exception to this rule is that the following pre-existing hours codes on a timesheet will not be altered or overlaid by an approved leave request. And those hours codes are KB, KC, KD, KE, KG, LT, and LU. Again, those are the only hours codes that will not automatically be overlaid by an approved leave request, as seen in the example that we are about to do. So first, let's take a look at Joe employee's current timesheet. Here's our employee, and we're going to look at their timesheet by clicking on the pay period hyperlink. Now remember, timekeepers, one of the first things that you all want to be in the habit of doing when you get into your timesheets, with the exception of your fee basis and intermittent, is pressing that validate button to see your validation messages. And the first error that we see is that there is a pending leave request for 9 hours of annual leave on 8/20. Now if I look at 8/20, you can see that the timekeeper has already applied the TOR and put the 9 hours of RG regular graded pay on that day. So in the past, prior to this enhancement, the timekeeper would need to remove this time from the timesheet if the approved leave were to automatically flow to the timesheet. That is not the case any longer. Bear with us as I log out of my employee role, and I'm going to quickly log in as the supervisor to approve that leave request so everybody attending this training can see exactly what it looks like when that leave automatically overlays the hours codes that have been posted by the timekeeper. So as the supervisor, I'll go to employee leave request. I'll find my 9-hour annual leave for Joe employee. The supervisor would scroll to the bottom and approve. And I'm going to now log out and log right back in as the timekeeper, right back to where we were just at. I'll go ahead and I will acknowledge the statement. I'm going to go to select employees, and I'll narrow this back down to the current pay period using the pay period drop down. Remember, the current pay period is always extremely easy to find. It is always the second from the top, and it is the only pay period that has the asterisk beside it. So I will search, and now let's go and find our same employee, Joe employee. Right there they are. And I'm going to click on that same pay period. Now I, as the timekeeper, have done nothing different. The supervisor approved that leave request, and we are now going to open that timesheet back up, and look what has changed. On Monday, 8/20, it is no longer 9 hours of RG regular graded pay. It is now that 9 hours of approved annual leave that we just saw the supervisor approve. So the timekeeper no longer has to go into that timesheet and remove the regular pay and manually add that leave to the day. As you can see, VATAS will now do all of that work for you. Again, this has been a very, very popular enhancement. So timekeepers, do not create extra work for yourselves by removing time if you see that an employee has pending leave on a day. Because as you can see, the system will now overlay it once it has been approved. And one more time, to review the exceptions to this rule, the following pre-existing hours codes on the timesheet will not be altered or overlaid by a leave request approval. And those hour codes again, KB, KC, KD, KE, KG, LT, and finally LU. Let's once again head back to our Timekeeper main menu. I would next like to take a few moments to discuss full-time positions on a day tour. Again, these are the full-time positions whose schedules are comprised of days that are either day tour or day off. When you create their schedules as timekeepers, you are not using specific tours of duty like you use for all of your other employees. Again, we are specifically talking about full-time positions on a day tour. So let's go into Select Employees, and I've already created this schedule to show you in this example. So let's find our full-time position, and there they are. Remember, this is just the training database. You will see the actual names of your positions. And let's click on the pay period hyperlink to take us into the timesheet. First, I would like to point out the schedule. You see that this full-time position on a day tour is working 4 10s. They work Monday through Thursday of each week, and they have Sunday, Friday, and Saturday notated as their days off. One thing to point out is this is still going to show you a default 8A to 4P on the days that are designated as a day tour. But please remember, it does not matter if those full-time positions on a day tour work 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s, or 12s, or any other increment. It will always be day tour or day off, and it will always show a default start time of 8 a.m. and a stop time of 4 p.m. This is also true on the leave requests for the full-time positions on a day tour. Again, as of August 21st, 2018, they can only take leave as all day or nothing. Now, when we post time, we still click on each day and apply the tour to include their days off. These are the only employees whose days off are posted. Now, when we apply the tour on one of the employees' 10-hour days, like I already mentioned, it will still default to that 8A to 4P. Now, some supervisors and timekeepers, they really want it notated to reflect the employee's actual tour of duty. And in this scenario, we'll say the employee, the full-time position, works 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. So remember, once you've applied the tour, you then have this remarks box, and you can put the employee's actual tour of duty if that's something that whoever at your station wants to be identified on that timesheet. So you could put something along the lines of actually worked 6:00 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then you can save that remark. And so that is a way that you can designate and indicate on the timesheet what the physician actually worked. Now, another thing to point out is the AWS code for the full-time positions on a day tour will always be a 0. So even if we have a schedule such as this, where there is only 4 day tours and 3 days off each week, it is not going to change the AWS code. It will remain a 0. And that is what we have the AWS code currently correctly coded as for this example. Now, one last thing that I'd like to remind everyone is let's just pretend that in this pay period, Monday the 27th is a holiday. And our full-time position, as you can see, they are scheduled to work on that holiday. So something that you could not do in ETA Vista that you can now do in VATAS is we can apply the tour, and it defaults to a day tour. But if the physician came in and worked on their holiday, we can now change this to in lieu of holiday earned. And that physician then has 90 days to use that in lieu of holiday earned. And we'll say, for example, that they decided to use it on Friday the 31st. So the timekeeper would still click on that day and apply the tour as normal. They would then change the day tour code from day off to in lieu of holiday used. Now again, I just want to reemphasize that I know there's not a holiday on 8/27. We're just showing you this as an example to discuss several of these full-time physician tours and how their timesheets work. Again, this is only for the full-time physicians on a day tour. We'll once again navigate back to our main menu. We've already discussed how to use tours of duty to find the specific 4-digit name for the tour of duty you need to build your schedule. We will also show you how to use the asterisk or wildcard in VATAS to search for a tour of duty when you are already in the process of building a schedule. So in this example, I'm going to go to Employee Schedules Grid View. Remember, you could do this exact same function from either List View or Grid View. I will find my employee whose schedule I am going to create, and for this example, we will use Dan Duty Station Payroll Tech. we click on the employee's name and we will add a permanent schedule. Remember, this is just an example to show you how to use that asterisk wildcard when you are creating your schedules. Notice it's still loading here at the top, so I'm going to give the page a moment to load. You don't want to just click around in VATAS hoping to get things to work quicker. Just allow the page to load. And on occasion, these schedule pages may take a moment because there is a lot of data on these pages. Now I have it loaded here. So I'm going to select just a random day, and I'll go ahead and select Monday in week 1. I will scroll down and I will click on our blue Insert Tour. Now the tour that we want to put in here, let's say that we want to put in a tour that starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 4 p.m. Now we did not look up the 4-digit tour name. So what that leaves us with is this extremely long list of tours of duty to search through to try to find the tour of duty that we need. This would be a very difficult task to just scroll through trying to find that tour of duty. So what we will do is use that asterisk or wildcard in VATAS to narrow it down, and we do so under the description field. So in the description field, I will type the asterisk. Again, the asterisk in VATAS is what we call the wildcard. And I will type in my 08:00A, and it has to be typed in that format, the 08:00A. Now I will then type an asterisk, and we want tours that go until 4 p.m. So I will type 04:00P, and finally an asterisk at the end. So it's the asterisk, the start time that you want, again, in this format, digit, digit, colon, digit, digit, either A or P for AM, PM. Then an asterisk to separate the start and end time, and then the end time with finally another asterisk at the end. I will click search. And I now have 3 tours. The 3 tours that all begin at 8A and all end at 4P. And just as when you're looking these up under tours of duty, there is something different with each of these. The first does have a 30-minute meal, and it's a 7.5-hour tour. The second does not have a 30-minute meal, and it is an 8-hour tour. And finally, the third one is an on-call tour of duty. So again, this is how you can use that asterisk wildcard to search within the tours of duty. And just like when you find the tours of duty using the 4-digit code, you simply click on the correct tour of duty, turn it dark blue, and then select OK. And you notice that it will fill in that tour of duty. Now again, we're not worried about building this entire schedule. I just wanted to focus on showing you all that asterisk wildcard search. And so we will once again go back to the top, click on the Timekeeper tab to go back to our Timekeeper main menu. Another topic that the help desk finds a lot of questions coming into their inbox on is selecting the appropriate tour of duty for the employee type that the Timekeeper is building a schedule for. It is extremely important that Timekeepers select the exact correct schedule tour of duty when creating a schedule for any given employee. From the Timekeeper main menu, we will select Tours of Duty. Use the blue rectangles to narrow down what you're looking at on any screen, whether you're looking at Tours of Duty, Select Employees, working on employee schedules under Grid View or List View. Use these blue rectangles, they're search bars, and use them to narrow down what you're viewing. For example, let's say that we are searching for a 7 to 3:30 tour of duty. For our start time, we can just type 7. And when we tab, it fills in the colon, the zeros, and the AM. For the stop time, we can put either 3:30p or 15:30. Notice when we click outside of the blue search bar, it automatically converts the 15:30 to 3:30 p.m. We will go ahead and search. And here is our result. We have 4 results that all begin at 7 and all end at 3:30 p.m. Now if you look closely, you will see that there is something different with each of these. The first is 7 to 3:30 with a 30-minute meal, 8 hours. Notice the second option is an on-call tour of duty. The third option has no lunch, which means it's an 8.5-hour tour of duty. And the fourth option has the special tour indicator that says 8, no premium pay. So if we were trying to build a schedule for an employee that was going to make up this tour of duty, if we just wanted the basic 7 to 3:30, we would want to use 0007. That is the name of the tour of duty. Remember, in VATAS, all tours of duty have a 4-digit name. Now, the question that we often get is, I'm a timekeeper for wage grade employees. And remember, with wage grade employees, they are on shifts, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3. You will never see shift 1 indicated anywhere, and the reason behind that is shift 1 is implied, all right? Now, let's say that we have a wage grade employee who's working 4 p.m., so you could either put 1600 or 4p, until midnight. We'll type in our start and stop times and search. Now notice that we have 5 results here. The first, 4p to midnight, and it does have the special tour indicator in there that says shift 2. So if we were building a schedule for a wage grade employee who was working 4 p.m. to midnight, we would absolutely need to use tour of duty 0025. Now 0274, it is also 8 hours. It also does not have a lunch. However, it does not have that special tour indicator designating it as a shift 2. So you would want to only use the 0274 on all of your other employees who are not wage grade. All right. For example, if we had a Title 38 RN who worked 4 p.m. to midnight, we would want to use that 0274. And again, if it's a wage grade employee, you need to do the 0025 with the shift 2. If it's a third shift, you would be looking for shift 3. But again, this is how we're looking up our tours of duty, with a special emphasis on making sure that if you keep time for those wage grades, you're selecting the appropriate shift as well. Let's once again go back to our Timekeeper main menu. We're back at the Timekeeper main menu, and the next topic that I'd like to discuss is schedule templates. From the main menu, under the schedule block, notice that we have a schedule templates option. When you click on schedule templates, it will show you the schedule templates that are currently available to you as a timekeeper. Now, one thing that you have to understand is these schedule templates are requested by your payroll office, and they're built by our help desk. So there's several hands and layers that these go through, which is why if you're going to use the schedule template, you need to ensure that every aspect of that schedule template is correct for the employee type that you are about to use the schedule template for. For example, let's say this 6 a to 6 p.m. and notice it says nurses as a name for that schedule template. So if we were hovering over each of the tours of duty, it shows us the name 0329, 6A to 6P, 0-minute meal, total 12 hours. So if you were about to use this schedule template for a wage grade employee, if we hovered over the 7:30p to 11:30p, notice it does not say anything about shift 2 or shift 3, and that is why this would not work for your wage grade employees. So again, what I'm wanting you all to take away from this is that you need to make sure that if you're going to use the schedule template, that it is exactly correct for the employee type that you're going to utilize it for. Oftentimes, we recommend that you use those schedule templates for admin employees. Maybe if you have a big group of employees that all work 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, that would be a good example of when to use a schedule template. Now, from this schedule templates field, you can't use them. This is just to see, again, the schedule templates that are available to you. So I'm going to go back to my Timekeeper main menu, and I'm going to go into Employee Schedules Grid View again. And once again, remember, you can accomplish the same things in Grid View as you can List View. It's really just a personal preference, okay? So I'm going to go back in to my Dan Duty Station Payroll Tech, and I'm going to click on Add Permanent Schedule. Now again, it's loading here, and one thing I want to talk about as it's loading is this blue Insert Schedule Template button. It's very close to the name field. Oftentimes, timekeepers get confused and they think that to name their schedule, they need to click on the Insert Schedule Template button because they are so close to each other. And that is not the case. Naming your schedule is completely independent to using a schedule template. Now, if you were wanting to use a schedule template, you would click on the Insert Schedule Template, and notice once we select it, it will fill out everything for you. So again, let's say that we're just going to do the basic Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, 2 weeks. So we select the schedule template, we click OK, give it a moment. Notice it's populating here at the top, it's spinning, so it is populating all of this data. You have to give it a moment on these schedules because again, it is so much data that we're loading into these screens. And you can see that once it finishes loading, we will have our 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday of each week. And you can see that it also names the schedule, it fills in a description, it correctly leaves the weeks defaulted to 2, and it also correctly leaves the end date as forever. So if we scroll to the bottom and click submit, we get the blue banner of success that we have successfully submitted the work schedule. And again, that is how you would use a schedule template in VATAS. And let's once again head back to our Timekeeper main menu. We will now talk about on-call, not only building it into the schedule, but also putting it directly onto the employee's timesheet. Once again, for the sake of time, I have already gone into our full-time hybrid schedule and I have created a basic Monday through Friday 7 to 3:30 schedule. Now the employee is also on call for 24 hours on their off days on Sunday and Saturday of each week. And you see that with a midnight to midnight tour, and more importantly, you see that in the special tour indicator that says on call. Now, let's say, for example, the employee is also on call on both Mondays from midnight until 7 a.m. when they come in to work their 7 to 3:30 normal tour of duty. Well, right now, we can't add that on call because, as you can see, we already have something occupying the Monday time slot in each week. In a scenario such as this, you want to use the Add Row button. The Add Row button, when we click it, you can see it will give us an additional entry field on the day that we have added the row. So I'll do this for each Monday. And I will then put a check in the blank rows that we just created, and I'm going to insert tour. Now when I insert tour, the last tour that I inserted was our midnight to midnight 24 hours of on-call. And you see when I searched for that, I had two results. One said on-call and the other did not in the special tour box. It is extremely important to select that appropriate tour, the one that does have the on-call listed. So I'm going to delete that out and I will search. And right here is our midnight to 7 a.m. on-call. I'll select it, turn it dark blue, and then click OK. We now have that on-call on each Monday from midnight until 7 a.m., leading up to when our employee comes into the office to work their 7 to 3:30 normal tour of duty. I can then scroll to the bottom and submit this schedule, and we have our blue text of success telling us that we have successfully submitted that work schedule. Another thing to point out here is notice that the on-call hours do not count towards the weekly total. That means you do not need to think about those on-call hours when you are determining the AWS, alternate work schedule code, for your employee's schedule type. All right. I am now going to go back to our Timekeeper main menu. I'm going to go into select employees, and I'm now going to look for our full-time hybrid. And here they are. Here's the employee whose schedule we just created. And I will click on it, and here at the bottom, you can see that schedule. Now, you do not need to click on the day and apply the tour for the on-call days. The employee will still be compensated for them. You do have to apply the tour, obviously, on the days that the employee has a regular tour of duty. And that day would be on Monday. So when we apply tour, you can see that it not only applies the regular tour, but it also applies the employee's on-call hours. Now, if you want to click on the day and apply the on-call day hours, you can do that. And when we apply the tour, it will still show 0 hours on that day, and you do see your timesheet entry with the on-call. But again, that is not a mandatory step on the days where it is just on-call coded. So let's go back to Monday. There we have our on-call. Now on Tuesday, the employee is not scheduled to be on call, and therefore, when we apply the tour, it only posts their regularly scheduled tour of duty. Now again, you are only going to want to build that on-call into the employee's permanent schedule if they work that exact same on-call tour pay period after pay period. If the hours and days that they are on call fluctuate, you do not want to add the on-call into their permanent schedule. What you would want to do is you would want to come to the timesheet and you would want to add work time. So on this Tuesday, we will say that the employee is on call, just like they were on Monday, from midnight until 7 a.m. leading up into their scheduled tour of duty. Now the reason that we need to click add work time, once again, is because the on-call in this scenario is not built into the employee's schedule. So our start time, we can put 2400 12A. For our stop time, we can put 07. And then in the hours code drop down, we can select OB on call. And when we save, we now have our on call hours and our regular tour of duty posted for the employee. The next step in this is if the employee is called into work, we need to break out the time for the timekeeper to put in the premium pay request. So once again, let's say that the employee, they are on call from midnight until 7, but they are called into work from 1 a.m. until 3 a.m. Well, we now need to break from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. out of this midnight to 7 a.m. row. So what we will do is we will first change the stop time from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. because again, we are saying they were called into work from 1 until 3 a.m. We now need to add work time to add another row with a start time of 3 a.m. until 7 a.m. We need to change the hours code to on call, and we can scroll to the bottom and save. And you see that we have now broken out the 2-hour window for the timekeeper to request the premium pay, either overtime, comp time earned, a premium pay type. When the premium pay is approved, it will automatically flow to the timesheet because we have broken that 2-hour window out. If you do not break the 2-hour or whatever increment window out before you submit your premium pay request, it will not automatically flow to the timesheet because you have occupied that time frame with the on-call posting. Again, the two options for getting the on-call hours onto the employee's timesheet is one, building it into the employee's schedule, but my warning on that is that you only want to do that if they work those same on-call hours pay period after pay period. The second option is what we did on this Tuesday, where we use the add work time button. Now regardless of whether you build it into the schedule or you use the add work time button to put it onto the employee's timesheet, you still need to break out the times that the employee actually gets called back in. So for example, on Sunday, there's the 24 hours of on-call that was built into the schedule. But if the employee gets called back in on this Sunday for any increment of time, we will need to break that increment out to allow a space for the premium pay request to flow. Again, this is how we can add our on-call onto our employees' timesheets. Once again, back to our Timekeeper main menu. Next, I want to briefly show you a new enhancement to how night diff and on-call are calculated and totaled on the employee's timesheet, as well as the employee's timesheet summary. So let's go into Select Employees from our Timekeeper main menu. And I would like to first look at our full-time RN's timesheet. So I will click on the pay period 17-2018 pay period hyperlink to go directly into that timesheet. And here you can see the entire pay period is fully posted, and when I click on the Schedules tab at the bottom, in the past, it only would show the week 1, week 2, and the total hours. But you now see that we also have night diff and on-call calculations. The employee has 80 hours of night diff and 95 hours of on-call pay. We can also see this now on the employee's timesheet summary. So I'll go back to select employees. I will once again find my full-time RN and I will put a check in front of the employee's name. I'll scroll to the bottom and click on timesheet summary. In here, we can see the entire timesheet for the entire pay period posted. You can see that the employee worked 24 hours of on-call all day on their Monday, which is their day off, and for 23.5 hours on Tuesday, leading up until where the employee came in at 11:30 p.m. to begin their 11:30 p. to 8 a.m. shift. If we scroll down just a tiny bit, underneath of the employee schedule, we again see our totals, which again does include the night diff and the on-call totals, which had previously not been included in these totals. This is a great tool not only for the timekeepers, but also for supervisors and the employee themselves to see those totals so they know exactly what to look for on their LES and on their paycheck. Let's again go back to our Timekeeper main menu. This time we'll use the Timekeeper tab to go back. The next topic that we will discuss is Telework coding, both by coding it into the employee's schedule, as well as the option to put it directly onto the employee's timesheet. For the sake of time, I've already entered into Emily employee's schedule, and I've already started the process of building the schedule of a Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30. Now, let's say that this employee teleworks every Monday and every Friday. If an employee teleworks the same days, pay period after pay period, you would want to build that into their permanent schedule because that is the employee's permanent telework days. Now, after you insert the employee's tour, which we've already done in this example, you then have the Telework code drop-down box available for each day that you have inserted a tour of duty. Now, when we drop the Telework code drop-down box, there are more options than there used to be. In the past, it was just Telework regular, recess time, Telework medical, and then one coding for Telework situational ad hoc. That one Telework situational ad hoc coding has now been expanded to the Telework weather emergency all the way down to the TS other 2 TBD by VA. Those are all of the categories that now encompass that Telework ad hoc situational. Now, because it is situational, you would not build that into an employee's permanent schedule, which is why we would select the Telework regular on our Mondays and Fridays for our Emily employee. Now, you could run into a situation where an employee has had something happen medically and they've been approved to telework for possibly, let's say, for example, 3 months. In a situation like that, you would build a temporary schedule, and as opposed to the Telework regular, you would code that Telework medical on each day that that employee is going to be home teleworking. Again, that is something that would be dictated down to you as the timekeeper from your supervisor, so that's not something that you would ever have to guess at. I'm going to go ahead and finish this example out with our Telework regular on our Mondays and Fridays, and I then scroll to the bottom and submit. We have the blue text of success telling us that we have successfully submitted the work schedule for Emily employee. Now I'm going to go back to our main menu. I'm going to go into select employees, and I will narrow this down to the current pay period and search. Let's now take a look at Emily employee's timesheet to see exactly how this telework appears. And here again we have our Emily employee. So we'll go into their timesheet, and at the bottom you can see we have their schedule. Now if you hover over the days where you've coded telework, you see it will tell you telework code TW regular. Now if I hover on Tuesday, notice the telework code says none because we did not build telework into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. When the timekeeper applied the tour on Monday, it automatically posted this TW Telework regular because the timekeeper built it into the employee's schedule. Now let's say, for example, on Thursday, the 23rd, that the employee is going to situationally telework. the timekeeper will click on that day and apply tour just like they would any other day. But in this environmental hazard other code drop-down box, the timekeeper will now pick the correct Telework ad hoc situational scenario, and we scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we again see our Telework regular all the way down to Telework medical. Now when we are putting it directly onto the timesheet, this is the opposite of building it into the schedule, and we would only want to be selecting some sort of TS Telework situational ad hoc, because once again, if it's regular Telework, you really need to be building that into the schedule. So we'll say that for this situation, the employee had some sort of car issue, their supervisor approved them to Telework, so we'll put transportation disruption on that day. We'll save it, and there we go. We have to manually do that. Now let me again show you when it's built into the schedule how it automatically populates. I'll click on Friday. I will apply tour, and because we built Monday and Friday into the schedule as Telework regular, the timekeeper does not have to do anything extra to get that Telework regular on the schedule. When they apply the tour, it automatically populates it to the employee's timesheet. So again, one more example of how to get the ad hoc situational. We'll click on the day and apply tour. We now have our regular time on there. For the ad hoc situational, we'll go to the environmental hazard other code drop down. We'll go all the way down to the bottom, and we will pick the appropriate TS reason. This time we can just say non-medical appointment event training and save. And those are our options for Telework on our schedules and on our employees' timesheets. We'll go once more back to our Timekeeper main menu. Another recent enhancement to VATAS is updating how union official time is posted to the employee's timesheet. In the past, the timekeeper would go to the employee's timesheet and they would manually put any union official time on the employee's timesheet. Now, the union official time will appear on the timesheet via a leave request either done by the employee or done by the timekeeper as a proxy request. Remember, timekeepers, if you're doing a proxy leave request, regardless of whether it's for union official time or any other scenario, we highly recommend that you have some sort of documentation from your supervisor prior to doing a proxy request so that you are covered should the employee have any issue with that proxy request. Now, if the employee is going to submit the union official time via a leave request, they would do so under their employee tab. We will click on leave requests, again, just as we would do any other leave request. And then remember, we have gone from the timekeeper role to the employee role. We will add a leave request. Notice it's spinning. Everything in VATAS only needs to be clicked one time. Here we see our employee's name, last name Timekeeper, first name Jimmy, because I am currently logged in to the training database as Jimmy Timekeeper. In the leave type drop down, I will scroll all the way down towards the bottom, and you see how many different union employee types of leave that can be requested. Within each type, there are 4 categories though, and it's BA, term negotiations, BB, midterm negotiations, BD, labor management relationship, and finally BK, grievances and appeals. Now you see this is regular. The next says first shift, second shift, third shift. So if you're thinking about those first, second, and third shift, that's only going to be for those wage grade employees whose schedule is made up of first, second, and third shift tour of duties. All right, so make sure that you're only doing a proxy request on those wage grade if you're using a second, third, or first shift. All right, but again, this is currently an employee doing it for themselves, so we'll just pick regular BA term negotiations. The employee would select the union code type, they would select the day, just like they would a regular leave request. So we'll say that this employee is in term negotiations all day today, and their schedule is 7 to 3:30. So we'll select 8/20/2018. We'll tab 3 times to put the same end date in. For our start time, we'll put 0700. And for the stop time, you can either put 3:30 p.m. or 15:30. And when we tab, it defaults and puts our 30-minute meal in. Now we do not need to put a remark in because we are logged in as the employee submitting the request for ourselves, which is also why we do not need and cannot put a timekeeper submission reason in, because this is not a proxy request. We scroll to the bottom, we click submit. Leave request successfully updated. Notice it also does not track a current leave balance. That may be a question that you get from your union official folks, is I'm putting a request in for this union official time. Is it going to take away from my annual leave? Is it going to take away from my sick leave? And the answer to that is no, it will not. This, again, is for tracking purposes only. If you are the timekeeper putting this in as proxy, so we're back at our timekeeper tab, we would do this just like any other proxy leave request. We would go to select employees. We'll type in the employee's last name, and in this scenario it is in fact employee. We'll put the check in front of Joe employee's name. That's the employee we're selecting. And we will go to leave requests. We will add a leave request, once again, just like any other proxy request. Notice the page is loading. For the leave type, I would scroll to the bottom just as if I was doing this for myself, and I will see that same list of possible union types, union code types. You would select it. This time we'll do BB, midterm negotiations. Click on the calendar. Again, we'll use today for this example, but maybe this isn't for the entire day. Maybe the employee, the union rep, was only going to work from 7 until 9:30 on midterm negotiations. So we can put from 0700 until 0930. And when we scroll down, now we do need to fill out the timekeeper submission reason, because at this point it is a proxy request. We'll put per supervisor request, scroll to the bottom, and submit. Leave request successfully updated. 2.5 hours. Once again, current leave balance NA not applicable, because it is not pulling this leave from any of the employees' leave banks. It, again, not taking from their annual, sick, or anything else. This is for tracking purposes only. And again, this is how we will now be requesting and how the union official time is posted. Once the supervisor approves the request, it will automatically hit the employee's timesheet just like any other leave request. Let's go back to our timekeeper main menu. And again, that is union official time for our timekeeper refresher. We get a lot of questions to the help desk from timekeepers who are asking, a more of a basic VATAS question that a lot of times they wouldn't necessarily need to go all the way through the help desk. And sometimes that goes through their payroll office and then to the help desk, which is just a lot of different hands in the pot, when the timekeepers could often find the help they need on our VATAS SharePoint portal. We have a very fantastic VATAS SharePoint portal that is maintained by our team, and the VATAS team works all day, every day on VATAS. So let me show you how you can easily access the SharePoint portal. I'm going to log out, and here on the login page for VATAS, towards the bottom, we have our for more information and training materials, visit the VATAS SharePoint portal, and that is a hyperlink, which if we click on it, it will take us directly to the home page of the SharePoint portal. Now this is where you can find any trainings that are coming in the upcoming months. And here you see the training calendar for August 2018. More importantly, towards the top left is the Timekeeper page. We recommend that you frequently check that Timekeeper page to see what new and exciting announcements and enhancements have been put into VATAS in the recent months or year. Any new documents that we think would be helpful to you as a timekeeper will be posted down this right-hand side of the column. And this is also where you can find the most up-to-date version of the Timekeeper Training Guide. You see here that we're currently on Timekeeper Guide 18.0, and I know that that is going to be updated to version 19.0 in the very near future. And this is where you could come to download that guide. And remember, we also have all of these videos for you to watch should you need help with any of these specific topics. A lot of these videos are shorter, 3 to 5 minute videos that cover just a brief topic. We again thank you for taking the time to participate in this refresher training, and we again highly encourage you to utilize the VATAS SharePoint portal. Thank you for your time and have a great day.